In today's video, 3 very important reasons for why your health anxiety is still sticking around. Let's go. Warriors, welcome to another important video on my channel. If you want to learn more about any of my anxiety recovery programs, please click right here and let's get into this video. My friends, health anxiety. I've suffered from health anxiety for many, many years, along with helping thousands of people worldwide to heal their health anxiety for good. And I've consistently seen some habits that go unnoticed that perpetuate health anxiety. And I want to get right into these 3 reasons for why your health anxiety is still sticking around, my friends. Reason number 1 is because you fear not fearing while also fearing the idea of truly living simultaneously. And I've been there, right? There's a fear that says, well, if I stop fearing, the worst could happen. But there's also a fear that says, well, if I actually start living, then I'm also afraid of that because of the potential consequences to that, right? It's interesting, isn't it? Because we keep ourselves in a state called the addiction to suffering based around so much irrational fear. If you tell yourself a lie often enough, you're going to start believing it. And with health anxiety, that's no different, right? So let's dive into this. You fear not fearing. Fear has become your safety mechanism, right? Fear seems to be one of those qualities that you believe has got you to this point, that has kept the worst out of the way. And unconsciously, you believe that it's fear that has created these positive results in your life. So giving up fear or irrational fear seems to be quite daunting to you, right? The idea is nice and you want to move beyond health anxiety. However, there's a part of you that says if you do leave this world of irrational fear, then maybe the physical illness will show up. Maybe the disease will show up. Maybe you will start getting injured. And there's all this fear in terms of what could happen with your physical body should you not feel like the shields and the walls are up all the time, right? So there's that. Then there's the fear of truly living. And I believe that this comes down to an identity kind of situation where I don't even know who I am anymore. Like when I used to work with a lot of health anxiety sufferers one-on-one, they would tell me, I don't even know what it's like to be me in my truest divine form anymore. And I'm going, I completely understand, because for so many years, you've probably lived a life of suppression. You've lived a life that says, I can only do so much, and you've lived this life within your confines of your comfort zones, mentally, emotionally, physically, behaviorally, and all these things. And you've become so acquainted with the way of living your life based around health anxiety that stepping out of that and into a freer space that is related to inner peace seems so far-fetched. I want to give you some truths here, okay? Because let's get to a point where we finally realize that we've been feeding ourselves a lot of garbage lately, a lot of garbage. Like I said, lies, 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 lies. We start believing those lies, right? Here's the truth. Fear is protecting you from nothing, okay? That's the first truth. Fear is protecting you from nothing. So the moment you go to the doctor's office next time and you're sitting there in the waiting room and you feel afraid and you're going, oh, there's that familiar feeling of fear again that has kept me from getting those positive results from the doctor in the past, I want you to say to yourself, it's not the fear that has kept me healthy all these years, physically healthy. That's not it, okay? So you come to that realization in that very moment where you feel the fear, and then you allow the fear to kind of subside in that very moment, and you naturally allow a different feeling or an emotion or a perception to take over in that very moment. So fear is not the very thing protecting you from physical harm, number one. Number two, when it comes to the idea of fearing, truly living, baby steps. What you really need to do is begin to identify with somebody else, right? And for me, this came in the form of learning how to laugh again, learning how to smile again, learning that I could actually help other people, or I could ask for help from other people. I could do these things little by little, therefore convincing me that I could, in fact, live beyond the confines of my old comfort zones. So step out with little baby steps, proving to yourself and giving yourself permission to leave the place of irrational fear and move towards a place of inner peace. Okay, so that's the first thing. Second reason why health anxiety continues to be a part of your life is because your lower self, we call it the lower self now, it's no longer the inner child or subconscious mind. Those can get a little confusing. Your lower self has connected health anxiety to your personality. Therefore, you have bought into the idea that you are a hypochondriac. This was me for so many years, right? I was talking to someone, engaged in a conversation with them, right? And within the first couple sentences, there was this flow of words and ideas, right? And next thing you know, my lower self came up into my mind and my body and said, hey, don't you remember who you really are? You're a hypochondriac. And I said, right. And then I started checking in to see if my sensations or symptoms were there during the conversation. I started questioning what I was saying to the person. I completely lost the flow in that little conversation, a relationship that I had with that person, right? And so we have gone to a place where we have identified with being hypochondriacs now, right? So it's very important that you understand that you can give yourself permission to be different when your lower self comes up and reminds you that you're a hypochondriac again, right? And instead of stuffing it down and saying, hey, not now, right? This is not the time. I don't want to go in that direction anymore. All you have to do is allow the elements of anxiousness to be there while you're still in that conversation, while you're in that new environment, while you're engaged in a creative act, while you're going about your day. You don't have to have a conscious response to every single element of health anxiety that shows up. This is the interesting thing, because we feel like we need to take some kind of action every single time we are reminded of our health anxiety. This is not the truth anymore, right? So this is how we slowly begin to disidentify from being a health anxiety sufferer and start to go, well, maybe all the health anxiety stuff is based around mental patterns, behavioral patterns, verbal patterns, emotional patterns. Maybe it's not who I am. Maybe it's just things that I'm doing consciously and unconsciously that keeps bringing up the connection to health anxiety. So this is so powerful when you start to disassociate from that old person, that old identity, those old personality traits. Now you're going, well, who am I really? And this is where it gets enjoyable, right? Third reason for why health anxiety is still sticking around, you've become addicted to a state of hyperarousal through stimulation, okay? Now, people will come to me and say, Dennis, I just can't seem to meditate. I can't sit there for 3, 4, 5 minutes, right? And this is because we have become so acquainted with this feeling of hyperarousal, right? The body's internal panic alarm just seems to be set off no matter what. You can watch paint dry and go, oh my God, is it really drying? You know, how long is it going to take? So these question marks show up all the time. Next thing you know, it brings us back into a state of anxiety. So the truth is this, all right? You must start becoming more comfortable with non-stimulation. And that means scrolling on your phone, right? Getting off of that, comparing yourself to other people's lives, keeping up with the latest political act, all these sorts of things that continue to fuel the health anxiety. Yes, there is a connection there, right? People that you surround yourself with, right? If you spend a lot of time in the city, for example, and you're going to Starbucks, right? You actually think that those people are at peace, ordering their coffee and this and that, their mochaccino and this, and I don't know the names, but no, they're not. So if you're spending a lot of time in certain environments, even though you're not speaking to those people, you are unconsciously always communicating with those people electromagnetically. So you're taking in their information, their feelings and their emotions, and you're giving off feelings and emotions. Next thing you know, what tends to happen in these environments is like attracts like. So if stress is the main emotional state that seems to be in that particular environment, you will take it on even though you entered into that environment in a positive state. So you have to become very aware of where you're spending your time. Often, for example, you can go to a cafe and you're sitting at the cafe and you're going, well, this was great. I'm in a neutral emotional state, right? It doesn't seem to be any elements of health, anxiety, whatever, right? And you go sit down. And in the background, there's this music playing, and it's the top 40 stuff, the pop stuff that you hear in North America, right? And there you are doing your work, and all of a sudden you're getting these sensations and these thoughts that, the mental chatter that just won't stop, and you're going, what happened here, right? Well, you need to become aware of the things that your subconscious mind is listening to at the very moment. So there's another example, right? So we have become addicted to a state of hyperarousal through stimulation, and it's very, very important that you look at your life, you look at the patterns, you look at the daily habits, and you start to go, well, I need to knock this out. I need to knock this out. I have to stop spending time with these people, right? I have to, although that is my favorite show, I can see how it's connecting to the false panic alarm that's being set in my body all the time, so I have to give that up. And the best way to give something up is to replace it with something else. So the moment you no longer go to that stimulating cafe, you have to find another place to go at the same time, right? That is in line with the person you're working towards becoming, right? And this is the key. A lot of people try to quit smoking. Well, smoking, gave you a certain degree of coolness, feelings, emotions, all of these things were connected to smoking. So you can't really give it up until you replace it with something else that's more positive that gives you similar things that the smoking gave you. Just an example. So my friends, those are some really important reasons for why health anxiety is still sticking around. I really hope they spoke to you. If they did, comment below. Let me know which one spoke to you, and make sure to subscribe to this channel. I'll be putting out videos consistently for you to fuel this supercharged time in your life where you're healing anxiety and becoming the greatest version of yourself. I love you. Have a wonderful day. And remember that you are more than anxiety. Bye-bye, my friends.